Errol Spence Jr. has finally spoken out since the first time after his Terence Crawford defeat back all the way in July. Errol's been really away from social media. He isn't always on social media, but he'll let his feelings be known, whether that be Instagram or Twitter. Errol usually is pretty active, but ever since a few days after this Crawford fight, no one had heard a word from him. There were videos popping up randomly of people in Dallas would see him, and that was like the closest thing we'd see. Or his girlfriend would post a couple pictures and people would be like, oh, Errol's in shape, Errol's overweight, but nothing from Errol Spence, right? Then come New Year's, posted something on a story, I'm back. So it's like, okay, he just took some time off to recollect after a huge fight and disappointingly was stopped in that fight. But he's put out some kind of new information that to a degree is alarming. Spence was on Instagram, posted a video of him getting wheeled out of a hospital with an eye patch or kind of something, a bandage covering his eye. Kind of reminiscent of when he had to pull out of the Manny Pacquiao fight with an eye injury, and that allowed Yordenis Ugas to fight Pacquiao, and then that set up Spence fighting Ugas for the belt after Ugas upset Pacquiao. I believe that was a retina, something wrong with his retina back then. But he posted that, and people instantly were like, what's up? Spence posted on his next Instagram story, had to get cataract surgery. It's been past due. It was covering my eye. Why you think I got hit with so many jabs and hooks? Still a great performance by bro. So Spence, to his credit, this is the first quote-unquote excuse he's made. Everything else has been from his fans, talking about him being drained, whether it be maybe he had, people are saying altitude poisoning, or not poisoning exactly, but the altitude made him sick, all these different things. And Spence has, of course, been quiet during these times. So he finally said this. And remember, after the fight, he said, I'm not one to make excuses. But in my opinion, I think this is going to go for, if they do a rematch, this is going to be a storyline. Hey, he couldn't see. Hey, he was depleted in weight, because they need a storyline to build up that fight, that rematch, because it was so one-sided. But Spence wasn't done there. Obviously, people on Twitter started talking and talking. Spence started tweeting at people. Someone went right at him, said, you're a one-trick pony. He was always going to beat you. Spence, hey, pulled the, yeah, get your money up. Spence said, yeah, I got to the Olympics, kids in private school, mom and dad retired, traveled the country, and I'll have to pick up boxing gloves again if I don't want to, all of that one trick. Spence had time today. But one thing people had talked about is, oh, he's got to retire. It's time for him to retire. Spence killed that talk, saying, all that said, you can kill the retirement talk, though. Yeah, I got whooped, but it was past due. I didn't live exactly like a boxer, for the most part. Which is true. We know Spence, he's been multiple accidents, one life-threatening. There always has been talk that, hey, he parties, right? And that was in his past, but at the time it catches up to you. It will always eventually catch up to you. And Terence Crawford is one of those guys, it seems like he never leaves the gym. So of course it's going to catch up to you in the biggest moment. The guy who's always in the gym, working hard, the odds are he's going to come out on top. And Spence acknowledges here that he hasn't always lived a boxer life. He's enjoyed life. And even with all this and Spence, saying, hey, I got hit with these punches because I couldn't see, he did give Terence Crawford his respect. And there's always been mutual respect between the two. Spence saying, they asked me if I wanted to do the presser. I showed up, no glasses, no nothing, and I shook his hand for whooping me. He also said, even though he won against me, I think Terence Crawford should have won Fighter of the Year instead of Inoue, who won the Fighter of the Year. Spence giving credit to Crawford, but of course, Spence's defeat was tough. Talked about how in the first 3 months, man, he was ready for someone to say something to him. He was going to crack off. But at the end of the day, with people being disrespectful, Spence knows that, hey, it's whatever. They've paid me and they've made sure my family is extremely wealthy. And again, at the end of the day, while legacy is great, like Floyd said, my kids can't eat off of my legacy. It's the money I bring in. And while, of course, as boxing fans, we want to see the legacy fights, we also want these fighters to get paid too, so they fight these legacy fights. And when both come together, it's nothing better in the sport. So with Spence finally breaking his silence, I wonder, is this rematch going to happen? Because talks are that after you get cataract surgery, it's about an 8-week process before he could spar again. So that puts us close to March, maybe in March. My prediction was that they were going to have the rematch in March. So that's thrown out the window because that clearly wouldn't be enough time for Spence to train. Is Crawford going to wait that long? Because Crawford doesn't have great options. Canelo's not fighting him at 68. Charlo's not a big fight right now. He's not fighting Boots at 47. Is he really going to wait for Spence all that time for a 54 fight? Terence Crawford, I think he's a prideful dude, so he might actually say that. He might actually stay inactive until that Spence fight just so he can say, hey, anyone who doubts I can beat Spence, whether he's 1 eye, 2 eyes, 47, 54, I can beat him whenever I want. I could see Terence Crawford being crazy enough to do that, but puts Crawford in a bind. He's enjoying life right now, and rightfully so. That is, in my opinion, should have been the 2023 Fighter of the Year, and he's pound for pound #1. But is he really going to stay inactive? Think about how big of a star he's become. I feel like he could be losing some money if he stays inactive, so maybe this surgery puts a rematch between Spence and Crawford out the window, and something I'm not mad about. As much as I love Spence, Crawford's an all-time great. I think Spence is great, but there's levels, and I think Crawford is an all-time great. Not saying that I don't think Errol would have a chance. I think Errol would always have a chance. At 54, it might be a different story, but it's hard to pick against Crawford no matter who's fighting him. But either way, I'm glad to see Errol back talking and back active. 6 months he was gone. People were talking crazy whether it was disrespect or making excuses for him. Glad to see the big fish is back, talking, letting it be known, coming straight from his mouth what's going on. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what will be next for both Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Again, their careers seem to be just linked again for so much. Even after they fight, they still seem to be linked together. Spence finally back active on Twitter, Instagram, getting cataract surgery on his eye. We'll see what's next for Errol Spence. Hopefully it's another fight soon at 54. There's a lot of good possibilities, but we will see. This has been the Never Drop Podcast. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, comment below. Do you want to see Spence versus Crawford too? Or excuse me, Crawford versus Spence too? Let me know in the comments. And if not, who do you want each fighter to fight? Appreciate you listening in. Press that like, subscribe button. I'm out. Peace.